On a bright sunny morning, a young schoolgirl cheerfully greets everyone. Her name is Sakihara Momoka, and she is considered the most beautiful girl in this high school. Fully aware of her beauty, she takes pride in the fact that she can get away with almost anything here simply because of her adorable face. In this entire school, there's only one person who doesn't seem to understand that unspoken rule. Just as Sakihara is contemplating this, someone suddenly calls out from the side, pointing out that she's wearing cosmetics which are not allowed at school. Her shirt is also not properly tucked in, and her skirt is too short. Yet another violation, so she should fix them immediately. The person calling her out is a student committee member named Miyab, whom Sakihara finds particularly annoying. He scolds her every day, but she doesn't let it bother her. Instead, she cheerfully greets him with a bright smile, wishing him good morning. She adds casually that class is about to start, so she will fix her uniform later. Miyab coldly rejects the excuse. When she asks him to explain, he reminds her that she always manages to avoid correcting her appearance in one way or another, and today he intends to make sure all the issues with her uniform are addressed. She is slightly annoyed by his attitude. He's the only person in the entire school who doesn't react to her charm, and for a moment, she considers running off to escape the situation. But instead, she decides to use this moment to get uncomfortably close to him. Reaching out, she adjusts his tie, commenting that it was a little crooked. She is confident that if she gets close enough, he won't be able to resist her. To her shock, Miyab coldly states that she has just lost even more points. Seeing her confusion, he explains that he smelled her perfume, against school rules, noticed her pierced ears, and felt her long, artificial nails when she touched his tie. Calmly, he instructs her to report to the discipline room after school. Later, as they sit in classes, Sakihara looks unusually pleased to see Miyab seated right next to her. Wearing her usual smile, she greets him, while Miyab simply comments that he hopes they can get along. She is deeply irritated by how unfortunate the seating arrangement is. What bothers her the most is that Miyab seems completely unmoved by her beauty. So instead of giving up, she decides she's going to make him fall in love with her. She is convinced that he is only pretending to be uninterested, and she's determined to make him fall in love with her. Wasting no time, she moves her seat closer to him, claiming she forgot to bring all of her books and asking him to share his. It's her first strategy to stay close and start a conversation with him. Miyab looks visibly annoyed that she came unprepared, pointing out that there's hardly any reason for her to be at school without her books. Sakihara, however, is pleased that even though she didn't get to be close to him earlier that morning, the seating arrangement has turned in her favor now. Her hair has colored streaks, her skin tone is light without makeup, and her lips have a soft color. She's convinced that no man in the world would be able to resist how beautiful she looks. To her disappointment, Miyab coldly tells her to stay quiet because they're in class. But nothing shakes Sakihara's cheerful mood. She confidently says that he is just trying to hide the fact that he's thinking about her. If he were really paying attention to class, he wouldn't have her on his mind at all. Miyab responds calmly, admitting that he is indeed thinking about her because she's disrupting the class. Annoyed by his response, Sakihara decides to step up her game. She casually loosens her shirt and adjusts her skirt slightly, commenting that the room feels warm, though it's clear she's also trying to turn up the charm. She keeps inching forward, confident that no boy could resist stealing a glance at her. But Miyab coldly snaps that he's deducting more points because she's messing up her uniform again. Miyab, on the verge of breaking, just tells her to stay quiet during class. For a moment, she takes time to analyze Miyab's reaction to her advances. She thinks about how he sometimes blushes while politely rejecting her. And since she's seen plenty of boys react visibly to her beauty, she's convinced Miyab is only pretending to be unaffected to hide his embarrassment. Still determined to get a stronger reaction out of him, she moves on to her next step. Standing up from her chair, she carefully opens the classroom window. As the breeze rushes in, her skirt is swayed by the wind, and she quickly pulls it down, as it didn't go as she expected. She's sure that this time he won't be able to stop himself from reacting. But seeing him sitting there with nothing more than an annoyed expression, she chooses to push him one step further. Suddenly raising her hand, she tells the teacher that she isn't feeling well and wants to go to the infirmary. Without hesitation, she adds that Miyab said he would accompany her. This time, he has no way out. Soon the two are sitting in the infirmary where Miyab asks if she's really feeling unwell, but instead of answering, she changes the subject entirely, saying they should just get to the point and asks if he is also feeling stirred up like she is. Shocked, he questions why he would ever feel that way. Internally, Miyab admits he might be developing his first crush on Sakihara-san, but as a disciplinary committee member, getting involved with someone so bold and carefree feels completely out of character. He doubts they have anything in common. Even so, he can't understand her behavior today. She's being unusually flirty, and he's barely managing to hold himself back. That's why he keeps adjusting his glasses, trying not to get a clear view of her. Feeling overwhelmed by her presence, he suddenly tells her to rest while he goes to get a thermometer to check her temperature. Sitting alone for a moment, Sakihara finds herself confused. She had only come here to make him give in, but now she wonders if Miyabe is actually concerned about her. She tells him that there's no need for him to look after her like that. Miyabe replies that even though he's a member of the disciplinary committee, he's still concerned about her health. It's cold outside, and since she's not dressed appropriately, she might get sick. He turns to leave again, saying he'll call a teacher to bring the thermometer, but she grabs his arm and insists that she's fine, and he doesn't have to do anything. As Miyabe turns back, Sakihara stumbles and falls onto him, accidentally knocking them both to the floor. Concerned, he focuses on whether she's okay, but in his flustered attempt to move away, he unintentionally brushes against her inappropriately. Startled and visibly shaken, he quickly apologizes for the unintended contact. Sakihara, equally flustered, also apologizes. For the first time, she feels genuinely embarrassed, but when she sees him blushing for the first time, a small, satisfied smile forms on her face. She softly tells him it's okay. When he, still unsure, asks why she looks so happy, she simply replies with a playful, "It's a secret." The narrative shifts to another girl, Kiyokawa-san, a well-known student at school, admired for both her beauty and her consistent top scores on every test. She carries herself with an air of elegance and is a respected member of the student council. Another student, Kuroy, has always secretly admired her from afar, never expecting that someone like Kiyokawa would be interested in someone like him. So, when the summer vacation ends and Kiyokawa returns, transformed from her refined appearance into something more like a living doll, only to suddenly confess her feelings to him, Kuroy is completely shocked. Kiyokawa repeats that she wants him to become her lover. Kuroy declines as he is a bit thrown off by the way she phrases it, and he still doubts whether he could ever handle a gyaru. However, Kiyokawa insists that he should at least agree to a date. Kuroy, confused by her persistence, asks why someone like her would want to go out with an otaku like him. Kiyokawa calmly responds that she doesn't mind dating otakus, but this only makes Kuroy more suspicious. After all, the Kiyokawa he knew was always elegant and unattainable. After this sudden interaction, he can't help but worry that she's planning something behind his back. Maybe it's a bet with someone to toy with a quiet, introverted guy like him. Trying to act confident, he tells her to stop teasing him already. But to his surprise, she leans in closer and suggests that they go home together after school. When he blushes at her sudden offer, Kiyokawa quickly clarifies that it's not what he's thinking. She rephrases, saying she wants to go somewhere private with him so they can be closer and she can understand him better. Already flustered, Kuroy's imagination runs wild. Kuroy, lost in his imagination, agreed without thinking, only to find himself in a karaoke room with Kiyokawa. Embarrassed, he muses on how he never expected to be singing with a gyaru like her. Now that he has a chance to see Kiyokawa up close, it becomes even more obvious that she is trying to dress like a proper gal. He awkwardly compliments how nicely she's sitting. Kiyokawa, flustered, insists he's mistaken, saying gals usually sit with their legs apart. She shifts into that position, startling Kuroy. Embarrassed, he quietly points out that her posture is revealing. Realizing this, Kiyokawa quickly blushes and adjusts herself, sitting properly again. Kuroy can't help but notice that even though she's dressed like a gyaru, she doesn't really seem to know how to act like one. To save her from further embarrassment, he gets up and offers to go get them something to drink. Kiyokawa asks him to bring her an oolong tea. Once he leaves the room, Kiyokawa starts trembling from nervousness, panicking over whether Kuroy might be assumed that she's not a real gal. She nearly screams in frustration, feeling like her act is falling apart. She even regrets ordering oolong tea, wondering if she should have chosen something more fitting. Something a real gyaru would order. As she quickly adjusts herself, she tries to make her skirt a bit shorter, thinking it might help her act more like a proper gal, but the thought only makes her more nervous. Her legs feel cold, and the discomfort makes her realize how difficult it is to keep this up. Still, she doesn't want to give up. It reminds her of a time in the past when she overheard Kuroy talking to one of his friends about an anime. Back then, he mentioned how much he liked the gyaru characters. That moment had stayed with her. It became the very motivation behind her transformation, changing herself into a gyaru so she could have a chance to date him. Her thoughts are interrupted as he returns with their drinks. Kiyokawa thanks him politely at first, but quickly shifts tone, casually remarking that he's really slay. Once again, Kuroy grows uneasy at her choice of words. He keeps glancing at her, unsure of how to behave around a gal, but it doesn't change the fact that she's still Kiyokawa-san. Just being this close to her is enough to make him nervous. Then, Kiyokawa suddenly turns toward him and asks if he wants to sing a song. He hesitantly responds that he doesn't know any latest songs, his nerves clearly getting the better of him. Kiyokawa looks momentarily shocked, as if she's just realized she forgot to check what kind of songs are popular these days. But quickly collecting herself, she suggests they sing a well-known anime opening. Kuroy is surprised that she even knows about an anime only watched by otakus. He never expected someone like her to be interested in that kind of thing. Kiyokawa then hands him a mic, cheerfully saying they should sing it together. He joins in as the music starts, and she energetically begins singing along, even standing up to perform with enthusiasm. As he watches her smiling face, Kuroy starts to realize something. He had always thought of Kiyokawa-san as a proper, graceful, and gentle person, but that was only because of how she looked. Seeing this more playful, genuine side of her starts to change his impression. When the song ends, she sits back down beside him, pointing out how happy he looked while singing. Kuroy nervously admits that he was just really excited to hear that particular song. Kiyokawa then asks if he remembers the first time they ever spoke. Kuroy does. At that time, he had dropped something, and Kiyokawa had picked it up to return it to him. When she showed interest in the item he was carrying, he had immediately started explaining everything about it, how it was merchandise from a novel that was about to be adapted into an anime. The story, according to him, was really cute, with great characters and a charming plot. Remembering that first conversation now, Kuroy feels deeply embarrassed, realizing that back then he had just gone on and on, excitedly talking to her without thinking. With a soft smile, she explains that back then, she had been completely focused on meeting her parents' expectations and doing well in her studies. That was why, when she heard him talk about anime with such passion, it left a deep impression on her. She decided to start watching anime because of him. It made her feel like her world had opened up in a new way, and for that, she's genuinely thankful to him. Kiyokawa mentions that her parents were shocked when she suddenly became a gal. Kuroy is stunned to realize he was the reason behind her transformation. She explains she changed because he seemed to like those kinds of characters. He quickly denies it, saying he never said he liked gals and 2D characters. The comment hits her hard. She reminds him of a conversation he once had with a friend, but Kuroy clarifies he only said he liked bold characters. Real life is different. Kiyokawa looks disheartened, but Kuroy adds sincerely that he doesn't just want to admire her appearance, he wants to understand who she really is. Her eyes light up a little. Leaning in, she asks which version of her he prefers, the bold new self or the elegant old one. Overwhelmed by how close she is, Kuroy reflects that while he's always admired her graceful side, he's genuinely enjoying the lively version of her now. With a bit of courage, he says he likes both. Kiyokawa is stunned. "You're really greedy," she blurts out, but Kuroy just smiles. As long as it's her, he's happy either way. Sitting on a train, a young man reflects on how it's already been nearly a year since he moved to Tokyo for prep school. Now, he's finally returning to his hometown. As he looks around, he's surprised. Nothing has changed. When he opens the door to his house and announces his return, a beautiful girl greets him with a bright smile. Keita is momentarily confused until she reminds him she's Anzu, his childhood friend. He recognizes her, but still asks why she's in his house. Cheerfully, she explains that his mom is working overnight, so she came to welcome him back. She adds that his mom was furious he didn't visit during summer or winter break. While chatting, she casually pushes him inside. As they move through the house, Keita notices the kitchen is a disaster. Burnt pots and general chaos. He asks if this is her idea of a warm welcome. Unfazed, Anzu insists things just aren't ready yet. She forces him into a chair and continues chatting, teasing that he hasn't changed at all. Keita replies that she has. She looks more grown up, not like the simple girl she used to be. Flushed, Anzu frowns slightly, telling him not to bring up the past. While replying, she accidentally cuts her finger. Keita reacts in surprise, but Anzu quickly brushes it off, saying it's just a small cut and she's fine. Keita doesn't listen to her explanation. Instead, he quietly hands her a bandage and takes the knife from her hands. As Keita begins chopping the vegetables, Anzu casually comments that he's just as clumsy as ever, but her words trail off when she notices how skillfully he's working. Keita quietly explains that during his time at the high school, he always cooked for himself. Before long, he finishes preparing a dish, and Anzu is visibly impressed just looking at it. A little flustered, she tries to defend herself, claiming that if she really puts her heart into it, she can cook something just as good. But as soon as she takes her first bite, she's completely blown away by how delicious it is. She begins praising him generously, saying that he could even work at a restaurant. With a small smile, Keita replies that she hasn't changed either, while thinking to himself how Anzu has always been so expressive. She doesn't linger on the compliment. Instead, she says that everything feels really nostalgic, like the old days when they were always together until middle school. Keita agrees, casually adding that she's become really loud and unintelligible now, which in its own way is nostalgic too. Annoyed, Anzu protests, saying that he should at least tell her she's become adorable. But Keita ignores the comment entirely. He gets up, starts collecting the dishes, and tells her it's getting dark and she should head home. When Anzu asks if he's not going to feel lonely, Keita simply replies that he's just going to shower and then go to bed. Still determined, she wonders aloud if he'll feel lonely while taking a shower. Keita immediately shouts at her to get out. Later, as he sits in the bath, Keita finds himself thinking about Anzu's strange behavior. But before he can get too deep in thought, there's a knock at the bathroom door. Shocked, Keita looks up to see Anzu standing there in just a towel, as she casually announces she's going to wash his back. Stunned, he yells at her to look away, but she remains unfazed. Calmly handing him a towel, she tells him to wrap it around himself. Blushing furiously, Keita snaps that he knows that, and demands to know why she's even there. With a soft smile and playful tone, Anzu replies that she's just taking care of her dear childhood friend. Before she can say more, Keita steps out of the bath, towel wrapped around him, and firmly kicks her out of the bathroom. Now sitting outside, Anzu's eyes well up with tears. She wonders why Keita still hasn't fallen for her. It frustrates her, how he doesn't seem to realize how embarrassing all of this is for her. Ever since he came back, she's found him even more charming, especially after attending that fancy school. She had convinced herself that he'd start noticing her, maybe even flirt a little. As she sulks, a notification chimes. Turning her head, she sees Keita's phone by his bag, screen lit up with a message from someone named Umi. The sight reminds her of the time when Keita first told her that he would be moving to Tokyo to attend a prestigious high school. That memory stirs up her anxiety again, the fear that he might leave her behind once more. Feeling frustrated and desperate to close the distance between them, she decides to take things a step further. When he comes out of the bathroom, he's stunned to find her lying on his bed. Once again, he shouts at her to go home. But Anzu, still determined, says that it's only natural for her to want to teach him how it feels to be close to another person, especially someone like him, who's clearly been alone for a long time. Keita doesn't say anything. Instead, he grabs a pillow and lies down on the floor, as far away from her as possible. Annoyed, she yells that she can't teach him anything if he keeps acting like that. Keita coldly replies that he never asked for any of it in the first place. Still unwilling to give up, she moves over and lies down beside him, wrapping an arm around him. When Keita asks her not to hold him, she flatly refuses. She asks if he even realizes how good it feels to be in the arms of an abyss-like person like her. Keita remains silent. Deep down, he knows he wouldn't even be able to respond properly if he tried. Trying to shift the mood, she asks him about school. Keita replies that he's just been busy studying all the time. When she asks if he's made any friends, he frowns and snaps back, asking if she's his mother or something. Anzu, completely unfazed, repeats the question. Eventually, Keita gives in and admits that he does have some friends, but he's caught off guard when she suddenly asks if one of those friends is Umi. Turning toward her, he demands to know how she knows that name. Anzu casually replies that she saw a notification on his phone earlier. She starts questioning him further, asking why Umi was messaging him about their conversation and what she meant by wanting to talk about him. Her tone grows more anxious as she presses on, finally asking what kind of relationship he has with this Umi girl. She's clearly worried, afraid that someone might have already confessed to him. When Keita doesn't answer right away, Anzu huffs, saying it's completely unfair. After all, she's the one who's had her eyes on him this whole time. Keita looks at her, clearly confused, and asks what she means by that. Anzu leans in gently and softly declares that he should just love her already. Still a little lost, he calmly responds that he's always been in love with her. His reply catches Anzu completely off guard. She shoots up from where she's lying and nearly shouts, demanding to know what he means by that. Keita, completely casual, says that they're already dating. He even reminds her how back in 5th grade they agreed to be in a relationship with each other. Anzu stares at him in disbelief, trying to process what he just said. She asks why, if that were true, he had been ignoring all of her recent advances. Keita's expression turns serious as he explains that his school has a strict no relationships policy. Anzu groans in frustration, calling it ridiculous, especially since he's an adult now, and even teases how broad and grown his shoulders have become. Keita, unfazed, calmly reminds her that he already explained all this in a message. Anzu falls silent, overwhelmed. Her emotions are all over the place, but then she remembers the notification on his phone. Umi. Her worries spike again and she demands to know more. With a sigh, Keita clarifies. Umi is a guy. To his surprise, Anzu suddenly bursts into tears. Confused, Keita gently asks why she's crying. Through her sobs, she admits she was scared that he'd grown distant, not just in miles, but in heart. Keita, still calm, says he left to chase success, not to leave anyone behind. And if she wants to decide his future for him, then maybe it's time he stops being so passive. As he says this, he suddenly leans in closer. Anzu freezes, completely flustered. She stammers, saying she needs time to mentally prepare. But he doesn't budge. He simply reminds her she was the one making all the bold moves. The narrative shifts to another Gyaru's tale. After connecting with someone who shares a love for ramen on social media, the boy finally decides to meet them in person. What he never expected was for a beautiful gal to show up. As he stares at her in disbelief, the girl cheerfully greets him, introducing herself as Abare. The boy, Menma, is still shaking with nerves. Up until now, Abare had only posted photos of empty ramen bowls, so he had always assumed she was an old man. Now, seeing this cheerful and pretty girl in front of him, he isn't even sure if they're going to end up talking about noodles at all. With a bright smile, Abare says they should go eat some don noodles. Menma follows her silently while she casually mentions that it's actually her first time eating ramen with another person. Menma simply nods, still caught up in his own thoughts. He can't believe that a beautiful girl like her agreed to meet him. As they walk, he keeps stealing glances at her body, which only makes him more nervous. Soon they reach the ramen place and head inside, Menma trailing behind her awkwardly. He finally manages to calm himself a little, telling himself that since he came all the way here, he should just focus on the food now. Once they're seated at a table, Abare sighs with relief and claims she can finally feel alive. She looks like she had been struggling with the heat outside, and now that they're indoors, she uses a handkerchief to wipe the sweat. Menma can't take his eyes off her as she wipes the sweat from her skin. His face instantly turns red with embarrassment, and he has to remind himself, again, that he's just here to eat some dandan noodles. Suddenly, Abare leans in extremely close, reaching out to take the menu from his hand. He doesn't even try to hold onto it. His grip loosens immediately, completely distracted by her. Just then, the waiter arrives to take their order. Menma manages to gather himself enough to order street-style ramen. Abare repeats the same order, but adds that she wants extra cheese. Hearing her say that, Menma suddenly gets excited, the idea of pairing cheese with dandan noodles sparking something in him. Without thinking, he adds that he wants extra cheese too. As the waiter walks away, Menma is still caught up in the thought. He never considered adding cheese to dandan noodles before. It feels almost surreal that a girl like Abare, so bright and beautiful, was the one to introduce him to such an unexpected but delicious combination. Then, Abare turns to him and states how surprised she is to see that he's younger than she imagined. Menma agrees, admitting that he also thought she'd be older. At her puzzled expression, he explains that since she always posted half-eaten bowls of ramen, he imagined her as some middle-aged man. Abare looks a little disappointed at that assumption. She tells him that it's actually really hard to take a photo when there's a delicious bowl of food right in front of you. The noodles get soggy quickly, so eating them becomes like a race against time. You have to finish fast if you want to enjoy them properly. Menma is surprised by this explanation. It's only now hitting him how much Abare must truly love ramen. He makes a quiet comment about it, and she responds with a bright, genuine smile that makes his heart beat a little faster. Right then, the waiter returns with their food, and both of them instantly dive in, visibly excited by the rich aroma and sight of the steaming noodles. Menma can't help but be overwhelmed by the sensual scent of peppers rising from the soup, and as he takes his first bite, he realizes that the added cheese has made the ramen taste even more incredible. He is just about to take his first bite when he suddenly notices her blowing gently on her noodles, her face slightly flushed and her body glistening with sweat from the heat. The scene completely throws him off. The noodle slips from his chopsticks and falls back into the bowl. He realizes there's no way he can eat like this. His mind can't comprehend how he can witness her eating while looking so hot without being bothered. Just then, Abare's own noodles slip from her chopsticks, causing a huge splash in her bowl. A bit of broth splashes onto her, but she casually wipes it off with her handkerchief. Looking up, she notices Menma sitting tensely. When she asks if something's wrong, he quickly shakes his head and changes the subject, asking why she wanted to meet in person. Still eating her noodles, Abare answers casually, she just wanted to meet him. She adds that her love for ramen comes from her grandfather, who owns a shop. One day, while browsing social media, she came across a post where Menma had praised her grandfather's ramen. That simple compliment made her unexpectedly happy and curious about the person behind it. So, she decided to reach out. Menma is genuinely impressed. To him, she seems amazing, while he feels like nothing more than a grubby little otaku. But Abare continues, saying she's really glad they met. It had always been her dream to share ramen with a lovely friend. The word friend catches Menma off guard, but before he can respond, Abare adds that they should do this again sometime. Eating together was even more fun than she imagined. Menma quickly agrees, still stunned by how warm and genuine she is. Abare smiles, admitting she never thought ramen could be so enjoyable with someone else. After finishing their meal, they leave the shop together. At the corner, she promises they'll meet again for another ramen session. Just before parting, she wraps an arm around his shoulder and pulls him in for a selfie. A bunch of delicious food is arranged beautifully on a table, while a young girl takes countless pictures from every angle, almost singing to herself about how amazing everything looks. With excitement in her voice, she hopes that today's post might finally get her 10,000 likes. At school, she stares at her phone with a confident grin, while her friends crowd around her, praising her for yet another viral post. Kana just shrugs, looking smug, as she replies that it was obvious her post would blow up. Nearby, someone overhearing their conversation finds it all incredibly annoying, muttering under their breath. Kyuya stares blankly ahead, his face marked by a solemn expression. His friends ask if he's feeling grumpy again, but Kyuya brushes them off, thinking to himself that Kana is probably out there taking more pictures again. Around them, students can be heard gushing over Kana, saying how they'll never get tired of looking at her because she's just so beautiful. Meanwhile, Kana, despite her popularity, is preoccupied with her recent post about feasting at a themed cafe. It didn't get as many likes as she had hoped. Kana is a second-year high school student, widely known across the school for her food blog series, famously titled Gobbling Up Delicious Cuisine. She is famous on social media as the gourmet gal, and for someone like Kyuya, who leads a very ordinary life, she feels like someone from an entirely different world. Sitting in silence, Kyuya taps on his screen and plays another one of Kana's videos, this one featuring her seated gracefully beside an elaborate cake display. But as it starts, he quickly pauses it when a friend glances over and teases him about being into her content. Kyuya immediately brushes it off with a cold frown, denying any interest. He scoffs, claiming Kana just orders excessive amounts of food for attention, probably throws most of it away after filming. He says it with certainty, adding that he can't stand people like that. Suddenly, Kana appears in front of him. With a firm, almost amused tone, she tells him he seems to have some strong opinions. Leaning in, she presses her forehead close to his and tells him that if he has something to say, he should say it to her face. Talking behind someone's back is just pathetic. With a sharp smile, she adds that she hates him just as much, then casually turns and walks back to her friends. One of them comforts her, telling her to ignore the haters, especially Kyuya and his awkward crew. Meanwhile, Kyoya's group is in chaos. His friends are crushed, convinced every girl will hate them now, and start scolding him for being so reckless. Later that day, he finds himself at a convenience store, still lost in thought. He keeps thinking about how Kana is always eating desserts on camera, in the streets, yet somehow isn't fat at all. Just for a second, he wonders if maybe she actually puts a lot of thought into her nutritional balance. He's startled out of his thoughts when he hears someone nearby murmuring about not being able to find an ingredient. When he looks over, he's shocked to see Kana standing there. She glances at him and, upon recognizing his face, instantly calls him the eyebrows introvert. For a brief second, she looks surprised, but then her eyes shift to his shopping cart. With a teasing tone, she asks if that's all he plans to eat for dinner. Kyuya, a bit flustered, replies that he should be the one asking her that, eyeing the mountain of food items in her basket. He hesitates for a moment before nervously asking if she's buying all that just to post on social media. Kana responds casually that it's obvious, but quickly adds that she does eat everything she buys. Kyuya is taken aback by her answer and asks if she really needs to push herself so hard just for the sake of online content. Kana's smile fades a little, and with a slightly sulky tone, she explains that this is how things work and that she never wants to waste food. Kyuya, worked up by her response, tells her seriously that instead of focusing so much on that, she should start taking care of her health. His concern catches Kana off guard, and she tilts her head, asking if he's actually a good guy deep down. Then, without missing a beat, she comments that if he's so concerned, he should make dinner for her. Kyuya is caught off guard by the sudden shift in topic, but Kana doesn't slow down, declaring she'll reset everything and see how he handles it. Before he knows it, he's standing in her house, watching as she ties an apron around her waist. He tries not to stare, but her figure draws his attention anyway. Struggling to keep his composure, he tells her there's no need for her to cook. But she cheerfully insists that she has to help him, while Kyuya tries his best to steady his heartbeat and focus on the food in front of him. Kyuya announces they'll be making 5 dishes using a special powder, prompting Kana to ask what it is. He explains it's Okara, the leftover pulp from tofu, Kana eyes the brown powder skeptically, unsure it looks edible. Noticing her hesitation, Kyuya bluntly tells her she can leave if it's a problem. Slightly annoyed, she snaps back that she never said that. Unbothered, he tells her to help out, then. Soon. They're working side by side, prepping dishes with the Okara. As the food starts coming together, Kana's mood shifts. She lights up and eagerly asks what she can do next. Kyuya instructs her to put tofu into the miso soup. She gets to it without hesitation, but as soon as the tofu hits the hot liquid, it splashes, scalding her hand. Startled, he immediately grabs her wrist, pulling her over to the sink and holding her hand under running water to cool the burn. His body is close to hers, and his voice is filled with concern as he explains that they need to cool it quickly, or blisters will form. Kana, a little flustered by his sudden proximity, softly asks why he's so good at cooking. Kyuya, still holding her hand, replies modestly that he's not particularly good. It's just that both of his parents are always working, so he learned to manage on his own. Kana nods, saying that she's in the same situation, but still doesn't know anything about cooking. She admits she's genuinely impressed that he can make meals that are both tasty and good for the body. Kyuya blushes slightly at her praise and, with a mix of humility and teasing, tells her that she's also great. She does something most people couldn't even imagine doing. Though, he adds with a hint of concern, he's still not entirely convinced by the way she eats. Kana stammers in response, clearly caught off guard, and soon the two are seated around a table filled with a variety of delicious dishes. As Kyuya clasps his hands and gives thanks for the meal, she unexpectedly joins him. This small act surprises him more than he'd like to admit. He quietly remarks how he never imagined seeing someone like her doing something like this because, in his mind, influencers never cared about things like giving thanks for food. Rather than replying with words, Kana simply pinches his arm and tells him he shouldn't judge a book by its cover. She follows up by saying that in that case, she won't call him an introvert anymore. Then, without warning, she leans closer, her hands grabbing both of his cheeks to make him look directly at her. His heart nearly skips a beat at her sudden closeness, but just as quickly she casually says that they should eat. Soon, Kana is diving into the food, delightedly exclaiming how it tastes stupidly good. Kyuya, not entirely sure whether that's a compliment or not, begins explaining how okara is used to bind the minced chicken, helping it retain its shape while giving it a spongier texture compared to bread flour. Kana scoffs, saying it feels like cheating. Amused, he starts chatting about the dish more enthusiastically, mentioning the nutrients in okara, how it helps balance flavor and texture, and even how it's surprisingly high in dietary fiber. He only stops when he notices Kana staring at him with a small smile. She comments how he clearly loves food, and that this passionate side of his is actually kind of cute. Flustered, Kyuya averts his eyes and quietly tells her to just focus on eating. After that, Kana takes a sip of the miso soup and is completely blown away by how good it tastes. She softly comments that it somehow gives her a sense of relief, a peace of mind, like this is something she could enjoy every single day. With a small, hopeful smile, she turns to Kyuya and asks if he could make this kind of soup for her, daily. Her words leave him stunned for a moment. He's certain she said that without really thinking, and yet it catches him off guard all the same. Oblivious to his reaction, Kana continues, saying that rather than just focusing on how good the food looks for social media, she also wants to start thinking about how healthy it is. She adds that she's genuinely grateful to him for making her realize that. Trying to keep his composure, Kyuya replies that he feels the same way. He says the miso soup only tastes this good because she helped him make it. As their eyes meet, neither of them realizes that this quiet, shared moment is the beginning of a future where they will become the most famous influencer couple, known for their journey as a high school chef and a spirited gourmand girl. In the gym, a young girl lifts weights while complaining to her instructor that she's too tired and can't seem to lift properly. Her tone is oddly flirtatious, more than the situation calls for, while the instructor looks visibly worn out by the hand he's been dealt. Not long ago, the PE teacher, Furuya, went on maternity leave, and Tateyama was assigned as the temporary substitute. A social sciences and national language teacher by profession, he had accepted the role reluctantly, unsure why he had been chosen. It didn't take long to realize everyone else had made excuses, and he simply hadn't been able to say no. Before stepping in, Furuya had warned him about one particular student in the class. At that time, he didn't know who she was talking about, but now that he is standing in the PE class, the girl, Shishiyama Hana, keeps complaining to him. Shishiyama complains that her body is too stiff to continue without help. One glance makes it clear she's a gal through and through. Slightly irritated, Tateyama tells her to start stretching if she's struggling. Though clearly unimpressed, she complies, stretching her legs while making sure to stay eye-catching. Tateyama, trying not to get flustered, steps in to help. He doesn't hold back, pushing her into a proper stretch. Shishiyama winces, clearly in discomfort, and grumbles that it hurts more than it helps. Tateyama offers a half-hearted apology, clearly not very sorry. Unfazed, Shishiyama leans in and says if he really wants to make it up to her, he should take a photo with her. As she gets closer for the selfie, her friends call out, warning her not to tease the teacher too much. She calmly replies that she's not teasing, she's just accepting his apology. She still doesn't give up, instead telling her friends that they should picture her with the teacher. The professor just moves away from her, making sure that his face is not visible in the picture. After taking the picture, Shishiyama goes to her friends to look at the picture and is happy that all the photos have turned out adorable. Meanwhile, the teacher is really not happy by her antics, but he couldn't do much because despite being a rude student, Shishiyama's grades are really good in the school. She also has a healthy body and a mindset, but he can understand now why Furuya has warned him about her. While thinking about Shishiyama, he goes to the storage room and is shocked to see her already standing there, almost naked. Seeing him barging in like that, she shouts, "What is he doing here?" and replies, to which the teacher says that he should be the one asking the question because this is the storage room. Shishiyama shouts that she always comes here, but Tateyama just scolds her for making excuses and says that she should instead go to the training room. Acting stubborn, Shishiyama says that she doesn't want to go near there. Seeing her like that, Tateyama is worried that she might be getting bullied, but Shishiyama just responds that it is because she doesn't want to show anyone that she has gained weight. He instantly starts regretting worrying about her. He remarks that it's surprising how innocent she acts given the way she dresses. Shishiyama brushes off the comment and comments on how fit he is. Startled, he quickly pulls away, shouting that she's crossing the line and warning he's not afraid to put her in her place. Unfazed, Shishiyama smiles and points out that they both know he's too soft for that. She then shifts gears, asking him to teach her how to train properly. She wants to go on a diet. Her bright smile makes it clear. She knows he struggles to say no. The next day, at the gym, he asks why she's so eager to lose weight. She explains it's because she wants to wear a swimsuit she bought, one that doesn't fit. It would be a tragedy, she says, after working so hard to get it. He bluntly responds that she should have tried it on before buying it. Instead of backing down, Shishiyama calls him sensei with exaggerated politeness. He snaps that flattery won't earn her special treatment, but as always, he gives in. And so, their extracurricular training begins. Being a bookworm, he actually knows a fair bit about diet and fitness, making it easy to guide her. Still, he reminds himself to be cautious. Getting involved in other people's chaos is exactly how trouble starts. Tateyama instructs Shishiyama to lift some weights, but she immediately starts complaining about how heavy they are. Annoyed, he scolds her for being too loud. She sighs and points out that she's only doing what he told her to. He admits it's a good way to burn fat, but insists she doesn't need to be so dramatic about it. Grinning, Shishiyama teases him, asking if his face is turning red because of her. When he denies it, she playfully tells him to stop interrupting her set. Tateyama fires back that she started it, but Shishiyama ignores him and returns to her workout, focused on shedding some weight. He is a little surprised at how much effort she is putting into just for the swimsuit and asks if she wants to hit on someone. She bristles at his comment about being easy, but quickly shifts gears, flashing a bright smile. Without missing a beat, she suggests they go to the beach together. When he looks at her confused, she adds that she can't swim and needs him to teach her. Before he can respond, she challenges him. If she manages to lift the 10-kilogram weight, he has to accept. Tateyama mutters that this is exactly what he means by being easy, but Shishiyama shrugs it off and asks if he really finds her that annoying. Ignoring his reaction, she returns to her workout, until a cramp suddenly hits her arm. Tateyama quickly moves to help, and this time offers genuine encouragement as she struggles through the lift. She finally manages to lift the 10-kilogram weight while accidentally exposing herself while doing so. Even after all of those unfortunate events, they have continued with their lessons, and soon he finds himself sitting on a beach waiting for her to come back. She suddenly appears in front of him, asking him if she looks good. He has no idea how he can reply to her, and feels that his student is a really amazing one and is not an easy girl. Shishiyama just goes closer to him, asking if he is going to teach her how to swim. She suddenly winces at him, asking him to join her, and the professor assures that their extracurricular lessons will not end here.